Wait, did we have some sort of relationship with him?
I think they're just like that. I think they're just good guys.
Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. Do you want to know what I remember the most from The Lord of the Rings, especially the ending? There are, in fact, many things to admire, admittedly. The beauty of the landscapes and the sets, the symbolism with death, the rebirth after Sauron, the peace after a hard-fought victory, the hope for a better future. All of those are beautiful, and one of the countless reasons I love the trilogy. But no, the one quality that really stuck out to me and still sticks out to me to this day the most is how goodness is established and celebrated as the greatest of all qualities and virtues.
It's beautiful!
Hobbits are far from the most dominant beings in Middle-earth. They're not the strongest or the most cunning. They aren't known for their beauty or phenomenal skills or even their toughness. But when 4 halflings venture out from the Shire to destroy the One Ring, none of those qualities really matter in the grand scheme of everything. It is their innate goodness and ability to endure the temptation of evil for far longer than anyone else ever possibly could that leads to their victory. Not to say that they could do it without help from people with those qualities.
And my axe.
But it is the core value of being good and genuine and generous to the person next to you for simply being a person. That is what's most valued. Without that quality, that love for your neighbor, Sauron would have won instantly. So much so that by the end, everyone, warriors, mages, scholars, immortals, and kings, all bow to it. It's celebrated and acknowledged. And boy, don't you wish that we just had a little bit more of that in the real world nowadays.
You bow to no one.
Not to say that anyone in The Lord of the Rings is perfect. They're all people with flaws. You can see that from the very start. The fact that they're not almighty warriors and brilliant tacticians makes the journey to destroy the One Ring that much harder for the hobbits. The fact that these 4 would even consider stopping for second breakfast on the most important journey in the history of their world demonstrates that they're far from perfect, because that's not the point. The ideal isn't perfection, it's imperfect people trying to do their best and be better every day.
You need to be better!
The reason I've thought about this concept a lot is because it's been missing in a lot of fiction as of late. Their protagonists are not very heroic anymore, almost to the point that all we ever seem to get are villain protagonists or anti-heroes or jerks or even people so flawed that they fall into temptation and only get back on track because of self-survival. And I adore Pluribus, but I think the fact that Carol is a depressed, alcoholic asshole before the world even ends kinds of demonstrates to us that we're not supposed to want to be like her. Manus, on the other hand,
I've only had Arlo for a day and a half, but if anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
Okay, but Pluribus is a show about a person who's not a hero that becomes humanity's only hope. Vince Gilligan doesn't really do good heroes getting a positive outcome. Hank and Howard are good examples of that. And I guess spoilers, by the way, for a character in a show that ended 13 years ago and a character who didn't show up in the original. If you didn't figure out what was going to happen to them by now without having it spoiled for you, I'm very much impressed. Is that rock you've been living under nice?
Are you crazy? Or just plain stupid?
Hank and Howard are flawed people overcoming their flaws to become genuinely better human beings. They experience their heroes' journeys. The problem is that they're not the protagonists. This isn't their stories, and they're facing up against people who are far more willing to bend the rules and do horrific things than they are. Their fate was inevitable, despite how much we grow to love them. The same thing with Nacho's father, who was the most wholesome, genuine human being in the franchise. Luckily, he was fine by the end, but not his son. Well, we saw what happened to him in the little-known 3rd installment, of course.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
In a world where negativity and evil seems to be so much greater than the good, the most that these types of series can do is punish the bad guys at the end. And you know what? Perhaps this is very realistic. It's definitely hard to look at the world that we live in and not feel that way sometimes. So much so that it's infecting our fiction, our dreams, because while I adore Vince Gilligan's work, I'm a little concerned by the trend that the good guys are secretly bad and the bad guys are secretly good. Not fond of it at all, really.
I understood that reference.
Even superhero stories have this now. The next season of Invincible and the final installment of The Boys are both coming out. I like Invincible, and I like the first 2 seasons of The Boys. It kind of fell off from me the moment that the Butcher went to a gun rally and shook his head in disgust. Now, I'm actually for people putting their perspectives into their work, but you're really going to use the Butcher to be anti-gun. The Butcher, really, what part of that makes sense to you? And that's why I don't really like much past season 2, because it's all like that. It doesn't really make any sense anymore.
Does that make sense? Ladies and gentlemen, I am not making any sense. None of this makes sense.
I do like these superhero stories. Well, not really superhero. Stories about people with superpowers. Almighty, beautiful demigods with great flaws coming down to have romantic relationships with each other and just wreak havoc across the world. They're good. They're a good twist on the formula. I don't have a problem with them or the idea of this concept being played out if they were the exceptions to the rule. But they're not. At this point, it's kind of standard that stories about people with superpowers now don't really feature people who are heroic or inherently good. In fact, since Endgame, almost everyone other than Spider-Man has been a giant raging asshole who is only doing good because they kind of have to.
Man, you are one pathetic loser. No offense.
Or they could be outright villains like Ironheart. I am still shocked by that supervillain origin story by Disney. It was wild. I cannot believe they did that. Or these characters could simply not want to be heroes. No shade on Wonder Man, with an actual big emphasis on the positive and negative qualities of being a creative person trying to find viable work in the arts. I actually thought the show was pretty good and unique, as much as a Marvel show with the exact same cinematography and lighting as everything else can be. But still, the lack of marketing did not help it, and it was drowned out in a sea of the genre being so parodied, twisted, and filled with subverted expectations that it's become the new normal. There are no heroes anymore.
Boring.
In fact, one of the reasons I liked Superman 2025 and Fantastic Four: The First Steps from last year was because it featured good people trying to make the world a better place. They were good movies. The problem is that they didn't exactly have much to say. Fantastic Four had high school musical levels of people miraculously coming together after the entire world rioted for the death of a baby. All because Sue Storm has maxed out her charisma and speech stats. Apparently, yes, this is what happened.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
At least Superman had a bit more, with Lex Luthor being so twistedly evil, and the Kents just being plain good parents and human beings. It's just that the war commentary and the ideas of superhero jurisdiction were just kind of dropped at the end, but I liked Clark being a genuinely good person, whose patience was tested by Krypto and his faith was tested by his Kryptonian parents. It was good, not perfect. No, the outright best superhero story that came out last year was Dispatch.
Here we go again.
Dispatch is a Telltale-like game, meaning that it came out in different episodes and was mostly based on watching cutscenes while making choices along the way. Although, to be fair, Dispatch actually has a lot more gameplay, with you functioning as a dispatcher, sending superheroes out into the field. And this is the best type of game like this after the original Walking Dead season came out. And the reason for that is because of its writing, mostly its character and theme writing, because the plot is meh. It's 100% about these characters. You play as Robert Robertson III, no, I did not make that up, the third Mecha Man, who is basically a poor man's Iron Man. Seriously, he lives in a one-bedroom apartment and sleeps in a lawn chair.
In terms of money, we have no money.
For the most part, you get to choose who Robert is as a human being. Is he a true hero or an anti-hero? But for my playthroughs, for the most part, I tended to play him as a good guy trying to be as heroic as possible, except for the bad run for the final achievements that I was missing. Even then, as a person who objectively does the right thing at the right time and is merciful, forgiving, and heroic, Robert can still banter with the best of them and holds his own even against former villains.
You piece of
Hey, I ruined a perfectly good mattress to make sure you didn't die, okay?
Because after his suit gets ruined, Robert becomes a superhero dispatcher, working with a group of former villains who are really only in the Phoenix program because they have no other options. And Robert helps each of them grow to be a better person, including one of his former nemesis, Flawed. 10 out of 10 character, by the way. I don't care what anyone says. I really came around to him after diving into the various choices in comics about him.
You're right, Lawrence.
Of course, the star of the show is Invisigal, who is the only member of the team that redemption is dictated by your decisions. She's a character who has made terrible choices in her life and kind of continues to do so. Whenever she feels vulnerable at all, she's quick to lash out both physically and verbally. No one has truly believed in her before Blonde Blazer and Robert. And of course, that means that she has to immediately be attracted to Robert at the start, making her a romance option.
How did I do?
I didn't finish.
Not what I asked. We're talking about me.
And while the reformed villains were interesting and had great character development, I was shocked by the regular heroes as well. Most people assumed while they were playing that there would be some sort of twist. One of the heroes would be a secret bad guy, but nope. All of the heroes are in fact heroes, starting with Chase, who is the Flash if using super speed rapidly aged him and made him a cranky old man with the mouth of a sailor. But despite how bitter he is and how skeptical he is of the former villains, he is still a hero at heart and willing to make the sacrifice if need be. Waterboy is a character who can make water from his skin, but he can't really control it at the start and makes messes all the time. He's obviously had a terrible feedback loop of people being too harsh to him and making him extremely anxious around other people. But despite the abuse he faces, he never lashes out at any person and takes care of his sick grandma without a complaint. All he wants is a chance to be better and to prove himself, and you can be the one to give him that opportunity.
Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits.
Phenomenon is basically depressed Superman. He wants to be a hero and to help people, but is easily saddened by mistakes and mishaps. He was abused on his home planet and is confused by the culture of Earth, even mistaking some encouragement as outright mockery. But he never actually lashes out or anything. He's a good person who just really needs a therapist to get through his issues and a support group in his life, which you can provide to him through the V-Team. And finally, Blonde Blazer, who's basically Captain Marvel if she was actually written to be a nice individual who cares about others. While she does have a lot of corporate speak, she struggles to actually follow the rules, violating HR stuff basically immediately with Robert. Yes, she's the other love interest. And it reminds me of that one streamer who said that Dispatch is Twilight for men. And yep, that's fair, cannot argue against that. This is better written than Twilight, but yeah, she got us with that one.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Blonde Blazer is a little too wholesome for her own good at times, and the reason she's gotten into the corporate role is so that she can do good once she retires, because she doesn't want to be a superhero until she dies. She wants to build a life and possibly start a family, and she doesn't want a full-time hero career to get in the way of being the person behind the mask. This straight up blew my mind when it was played completely straight. When was the last time that this type of story was done? It's such a return to form that I still think about this game despite beating it 3 times. Do not go back and play it a 4th time. Don't do it.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Because that's the thing, what's old becomes new again if it hasn't been used for a significant amount of time. Dispatch is so memorable because it doesn't subvert anything, because it plays everything straight, because there is no twist villain, because the good people are just good people, and the game outright admires that. It respects people trying to become better, but it really emphasizes that everyone needs a hero who will help prop them up when they're down, and that is the ultimate good and leads to a happier life for everyone involved.
Morty, where's your collar? I'll fix it.
I dropped it!
I'm okay with this. Be good, Morty. Be better than me.
In this way, it's like Lord of the Rings. Look, I'm not saying that they're the exact same level of quality in terms of writing. Dispatch is not written as well as The Lord of the Rings. I'm not comparing them that way. It's the underlying appreciation for heroics, for caring about people. Even if Dispatch jokes a lot about different things, including corniness, there is no getting past the raw appreciation for someone actively trying to make the world better one person at a time.
Hey, who left this bowl of onions here?
I think one of the reasons that this little random game has stood out for me for so long is because of that. Despite having some glaring flaws, characters literally teleport at different points during the climax, by the way, but I got over that. I still love this and everything that it achieved. Genuine heroes with fatal flaws that they need to overcome to complete their heroes' journeys. Even if it's as simple as you shouldn't isolate yourself and you should have a support network. At this point, I would have assumed that they would try to be like the boys and go on and on about how often Mecha Man drags women into his suit, which is gross. I'm glad they didn't go down that route.
This is worthless.
It's less than worthless, my boy.
And while I'm critical of The Boys now, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't have liked it if it still was well written. I do like these types of stories. Two of my favorite shows ever are Better Call Saul and The Glory. Neither of those protagonists are good people, but I do also like the exact opposite, The Good Place, where being better and trying to improve yourself is the ultimate virtue. Both can exist. The problem is that there's far too much of an overabundance of one over the other right now.
Well, hang on, you've just... No, I like it. This is brilliant, but I like this.
Would John Wick be as memorable as it is as a franchise if the instigating incident wasn't as absurd as someone killing your dog? It's only ever been really duplicated once, but not really that well. Would The Sopranos be as memorable as it is if every mob story out there was about the boss going to therapy? Although I don't know if anyone would be willing to do the Italian mob stereotype anymore. Would Red Dead Redemption 2 stand out as the perfect Western if the market was flooded with others? In fact, do you think that they would have more clones at this point?
Where the f is everyone?
Because there was an era where Westerns were definitely overflowing the market with both televisions and movies. The concept was so popular that everyone did it, and it got to the point that even if something was good, it wouldn't stand out because it stood in a sea of things that at least appear to be the exact same thing. Red Dead Redemption 2 would still be phenomenal, but it wouldn't be as standout as it was if it was surrounded by exact copies. It's kind of like what's happening with superheroes right now. The genre was simply oversaturated to the point that regular heroes seemed boring, so a twist on the formula was required until that became oversaturated as well, just like with fantasy. You'd probably not believe it, but back in 2011, Game of Thrones was a big deal because of how absolutely different it was. The fact that seemingly the main character, the one person who was objectively good, was killed for doing the right thing was shocking. I didn't even watch it at the time, and I knew about it because people wouldn't shut up about how shocking and innovative it was for them. But I was a kid without HBO, and by the time that I could watch it, the fact that Jon Snow was killed off was spoiled to me the day after it happened because of Conan O'Brien of all people.
Hate, 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 hate. Double hate.
loathe entirely.
In fact, I didn't get into the series until season 8, where I just had to watch that train wreck unfold. Everyone was pulled to that dumpster fire. Even without knowing anything about it, I could see just how poorly written this season was. It was rushed. The actors were burned out after dedicating almost a decade of their lives to this. Simple mistakes were being made, and the ending was just plain stupid, but it did get me to go back to see the first 4 seasons that were actually really great. Not that it matters with the ending, but they were still really fun to watch.
Impressive. Very nice.
And of course, George R.R. Martin not finishing the books did not help. And he's never going to finish them either, by the way. He's too busy plastering his name on anything and trying to procrastinate. Which, alright, don't finish the books, but don't be shocked when Brandon Sanderson is hired to finish them for you when you die. I know Martin doesn't want that, but do you really think that his publisher, his wife, or Sanderson is going to leave that money on the table?
We just need money. One more decent take and we're gone.
So, as you can assume, I don't really know the full lore of A Song of Fire and Ice. Not going to get into it too much, but I did like the first season of House of the Dragon, and I was soft on the second season as a sacrificial bridge to season 3, but the formula definitely felt played out, until, that is, the Hedge Knight got an adaptation as a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
I originally tried to watch this with my wife, but she was turned off immediately by the funeral, the pooping by the tree scene, and the main character coming off as a naive fool in a world that she knew ate people like him alive. And you know what? I couldn't really disagree with her assessment at the very beginning, because you see what the problem is. Game of Thrones actively trained you that you shouldn't become attached to a completely morally good human being character, because they are going to die a painful and brutal death with everyone laughing at them.
Life sucks, and then you die.
But I gave it a few episodes, and you know what? I was hooked. It reminded me of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, where you're just following a random guy that's not really the main character in any way in this brutal and unfair world. He has skills, but he's no noble. He's not the center of this planet. Sir Duncan the Tall is a skilled and talented knight, but nothing is in his favor. So much so that most people just call him Dunk. He's so much not like the main characters of this universe that the show had to get on its knees 3 separate times, use the power of prophecy to tell you that he won't die a miserable death, and beg you to stay.
No. Wait.
As a lower stake character study, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms relies on you being attached to Sir Duncan. You have to like this guy, kind of like you have to like Simon in Iron Lung, and the writing and performances really carries it through. After a few episodes, I grew to love this awkward lunk because he's just genuinely a good human being. His genuineness, kindness, and politeness are misplaced in this world, but you grow as fond of him as the people he inspires and shapes. Duncan actively changes the minds of the characters about him simply by trying his best, even getting people who were rude to him to second guess themselves.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
Duncan is far from flawless, but he's about as good as this world could possibly allow. He's quick to forgive transgressions based on the severity of what happened, although this might be because he probably lied about being knighted. Technically, not the worst of sins, because maybe his master would have knighted him if he hadn't died so quickly. Once again, I haven't read any of the books or the novella. I could be way off on this. I'm just going based off the show, and it seemed like Duncan lied about being knighted.
I don't know.
He does react to lies rather viciously, but he does forgive Egg, who acts as his squire and obviously knows far more than an orphan boy should. No spoilers, by the way, but you can see as Egg grows more fond of Duncan after watching him be genuine and caring to other people. It's obviously not something that he's seen a lot of. People see Dunk and change, at least through the first 5 episodes, and it's a nice change of pace from the raw hopelessness of the other parts of the franchise. Not to say that there are no negative consequences to Duncan's actions, there are. Just look at the perfection, which is the end of episode 5.
No notes?
No notes.
No notes!
No notes.
No notes!
No notes. It's perfect.
But even if he did lie about being knighted and is a flawed human being, that is pretty awkward. Dunk is a man trying to live up to the ideals of a knight, being a man of the people before anything else. He wants to look out for the people around him, and most of all, he's a good example for Egg, a positive role model, something that he obviously didn't have that much of when he was growing up. An imperfect man trying to be as good as he can be. Their relationship is the core of the show and the reason why it works so well. I was blown away by a rather simple, smaller scale story about a knight and his squire, with Dunk acting rather rude at the start, trying to mimic his own master, but growing softer as time goes on. I really like that detail.
I've looked at this for 5 hours now.
While not the ideal hero of perfection, Dunk is a person trying to be better, to be polite and kind, to set a good example, to make the world a little bit better by simply doing what's right for the people around him. It's so refreshing considering how depressing everything from A Song of Fire and Ice can be. He's just a man on his hero's journey, and based on the fact that Egg is significant and generally seen as a good person from the small spoilers I heard about what happens, Dunk was effective as a mentor in the long run. He probably had the greatest positive influence in this world simply for striving to be the ideals that are greater than his own, to be a symbol, to be a knight.
Because sometimes truth isn't good enough. Sometimes people deserve more. Sometimes people deserve to have their faith rewarded.
An actual demonstration of how to be a good man and a good person is needed. It seems like there really aren't that many examples in modern fiction anymore. Just look at the show Adolescence, which I think was brilliant, by the way, and the news about Skeletor being based on toxic masculinity in the Master of the Universe movie. There seems to be a lot more emphasis on finger wagging rather than giving positive examples of masculinity like Dunk. And on a side note, can I point out the irony of paying Jared Leto, of all people, a significant amount of money to teach a lesson on toxic masculinity? The man is basically a cult leader who has allegedly abused many different people.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
I don't even have a problem with a villain being a villain and portraying toxic masculinity, although I find the term rather ironic considering that its assertiveness and unnecessarily confrontational nature fits with the unhealthy habits it's trying to point out. But yes, have the bad people be bad. I don't have a problem with this. That's a good thing. But can we also, in these circumstances, have the good guys be equally good, like in Lord of the Rings, Dispatch, and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms? Maybe even to the point where real people can be inspired by fictional characters like from Frieren.
Would you get out of here?
If you've never heard, there is a small phenomenon in Japan where men are doing good deeds and acting heroic because that's what Himmel the hero would do. No, this is not made up. Himmel the hero, who led the party to defeat the Demon King, was such a positive role model that inspired people to be good, to be better. Now that is powerful. That's a hero. Granted, he's not real, but you know what? A lot of our leaders suck, so it's something at the very least. We can't always change real people to be what we want, but we can certainly change our dreams and our creations.
What do you do when your dreams have been destroyed?
Dream a better dream.
Frieren is actually a series about life after the adventure. It's about an ancient elven mage journeying with a younger generation as she remembers the good times she had with Himmel and the party. It's very slow, deliberate, and quiet as she remembers her friend after losing him because he died of old age, because it's very obvious that he loved her and she took her sweet time coming back to visit him. Himmel left statues in the various towns that he saved as a way for people to remember him. He's not perfect, not at all, being slightly gaudy and humorously egotistical at times, but he's a good person who would help anyone who needed it. It's even outright declared that he had those statues made to comfort Frieren after he died. It's why Frieren, an elf hundreds of years his senior, loved him back. At this point, Himmel's adventures are but stories to people, inspiring them to be better, and Frieren gets to witness the echoes of the positivity that Himmel left even after he passed.
First, let's get one thing straight. I'm not crying. I'm just sweating through my eyes.
But even Himmel made mistakes. There was a time he was soft on demons, who in this universe are just pure plain evil. Just monsters, mimicking the appearance and communication style of humans to kill them more easily. And his empathy for them led to a few problems until he learned his lesson. Now, I don't want to get into this Western debate. No, the demons are not meant to represent any group of people. They're just monsters symbolizing the inner darkness of the human soul made manifest as purely evil antagonists to match the virtue of the hero. I can't believe this is the takeaway we've gotten from Frieren, while Japan gets people being stabbed for other human beings.
Oh, I made myself sad.
Even with his mistake, Frieren didn't chastise Himmel's sense of empathy. It was the target that she scrutinized. She loved his sense of empathy and compassion towards other human beings. But there is, in fact, pure evil in this world and in our world. There are things that one cannot come back from. While I applaud Dispatch and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms for its sense of mercy and empathy to help redeem people, each one of these is still realistic. You cannot save someone who just wants to watch people suffer as the world burns. There's really no way to do that. It's the end. You just can't save them.
You're horrible. You're an irredeemable monster.
What took you so long, idiot?
Examples of anti-heroes, villain protagonists, and negativity in fiction have become so prevalent, it's tiring to the point that these stories about people simply trying to be better than they once were and to make the world a better place is a breath of fresh air when they all would have been stale 10 years ago. I don't want anti-heroes and villain protagonists to go away. I don't want complicated characters to vanish for flawless, boring heroes. Each example I mentioned of heroic stories are ones of flawed human beings, because that's all a hero can be. A flawed person trying to live up to an ideal they placed on themselves.
Walk away. That's right, Howard. You know why I didn't take the job? Because it's too small!
We really need more stories like this now, some positivity and good examples for people to follow. We can't control real life. People who gain power, influence, and fame can fall into temptation easily and become negative examples. But we can control our dreams, our fiction, our hopes, our ability to see a better future and a better person. And maybe a little more positivity can set an example for people. Maybe people would strive to be like Frodo, Robert, Duncan, or Himmel. Maybe when about to make a choice, more people would think about what the person they would like to be, the person that is an ideal, would actually do.
No, I don't think I will.
Where have all the heroes gone? Maybe in our chase to make stories realistic, we lost our sense of wonder and hope. Complicated characters are nice, but I, for one, do like when I watch, play, or read a work of fiction which makes me want to hold doors open, or put an extra cart in the corral at the store, or to stop and see if someone broken down by the side of the road needs help. Personally, I could do with a bit more hope and positive examples, and I hope that more stories come out with the classical hero's journey of overcoming one's greatest flaw in order to become the person they were always meant to be. But what do you think? Do you like classical heroes like me? Are you just a little tired of the anti-heroes? Do you completely disagree with me? What are some examples of classical heroes that I missed? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, if you disagree with everything I have to say, that's perfectly fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion.
Thank you!
Thank you all so much for watching.
You're still here? Good night, everybody! Thank you. Bye. Boom.
Do not despair.